Have you ever been in your science class going over a concept and then in 2 weeks time you can't remember it for the test? Well, take that frustration and times it by infinity, and then you know how us teachers feel. The majority of us spend no less than an hour planning individual lessons. Then we mark your test and see that we've wasted enough hours of our lives planning lessons that didn't work. But today, man comes with the facts. It's not necessarily your fault as students, and it isn't our fault as teachers. It's the education system. It's flawed, especially for a subject like science. But we have to play by the rules of the game. This chart is called the normal distribution curve, and this is the complex way that the exam board decide the grade boundaries. Pass, average, failure. Each year they have a cutoff point that says a score lower than this is a failure. Have you ever wondered why the grade boundaries shift each year? Well, in a year where bare students do well, they increase the grade boundaries, and when students don't do so well, they lower the grade boundaries. Basically, to have winners, you need losers. And the government doesn't really mind too much. As long as there's a handful of the nation's students passing, they can go on to be the next generation of politicians and influencers that can dictate the lives of the rest of us. If you haven't been revising since year 9, you're already at a disadvantage, but all isn't lost. Even if you're in year 11 at the moment, the sooner you act, the better. In the last video, we looked at the syllabus and topic list. If you haven't seen that yet, click on this card to go and download the adapted syllabus, because we're going to need it for this video, which is all about creating realistic timetables. Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. Revision literally means looking again. Therefore, first you have to have studied the topical idea before you can revise it. The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve by man like Ebbinghaus helps to explain why we need to revise. If you were to learn something and not look at it again, chances are you will forget it pretty quickly. It is pretty useful for your brain to actually forget things. If it didn't, useful information could be lost in a sea of noise. For example, when your teacher is explaining something that will be in your test, it's not a good time for you to start storing information about how hard your chair is, how the person to your left is slouching on their chair, or the pressure that you feel from your socks on your feet. Forgetting allows us to focus our memory better. The human mind didn't evolve to find squiggles on a board important. Therefore, we have to artificially stimulate our brains to realize that we don't want to forget this particular stimulus. Let's look at that forgetting curve again. There comes a point when it becomes pretty difficult to recall the information. It's here that we should revise. Spaced repetition is the process of increasing the time between reviewing a piece of information. This has been shown to help move information from your working memory, your short-term memory, to your long-term memory. Also notice the forgetting curve begins to level off after some time. I'll talk more about spaced repetition and revision notes in the 4th video, so make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to get that as soon as it drops. The revision timetable. I created this revision timetable using a video from Ben Ryder on YouTube. Check that out if you want to make your own one from scratch, but if you're as lazy as myself, then I got you. When you open the Excel sheet, you'll notice 5 tabs at the bottom. The About tab is arranged and color-coded in steps to help you understand and create your own revision timetable. The green is to help you understand the 2 examples, the triple or the combined, and the orange helps you to understand how the formula works, and then the blue directs you on how to make your own. Alright, let's start with the green. You can see that the first bit tells you to have a look at the appropriate example of the tab below. So if you're doing triple, you click on triple. If you're doing combined, you click on combined. And so let me say that I'm going on combined. When you click on it, you notice you've got 2 tables. The one on the left is your main revision timetable, and the one on the right tracks the amount of study slots that you've put for each subject, and also the hours of revision that you've got for each subject in the whole of your revision timetable for the year. In this example, Notice how the revision slots that I've got for each subject is 105 slots of revision. These are 30 minutes block revision sessions. The default number of subjects that I've put for the combined student is 9. The default number I've put for triple students is 10. And if you have a look at the table again, the tally on the right hand side, 105 revision sessions corresponds to 52.5 hours of revision. And then at the bottom you can see the tally for all the revision slots that I've got in this year. So that's 945 for all of my subjects, and the hours is 472.5 hours. Let's go back to the about section now, and now we're on the orange bit. The first step is asking you to highlight a week of revision from your slots, then to look at the table on the right and delete your highlighted slots. So look how that looks like when I do it. You go back to your example for combined. I'm going to highlight a week of revision, and then we're looking at the right hand side table. So when I delete that, look what happens to the numbers. They shift because the tally automatically counts how many revision slots I've put into my left hand side table, and if I undo that, the numbers go back to the original. So now let's go back to the about section, and we're down to where it says type in the subjects in a different order. So let's go back to the example for combined science, and right here let me type in art, and look what happens to the right hand side table. We've got one slot for art, and that's 0.5 hours because that's a 30-minute slot. Okay, so if I undo that again, you see it goes back to 0 slots for art. So you have to type in the subject name exactly how it's written on the right hand side for it to tally up properly when you type it in the left hand side. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just comment below and I'll explain it again. And well, the last part of the orange bit though is just to play around with the numbers, not necessarily the numbers, the subject order, and then look at what's happening to the numbers. So do that until you're comfortable with the template, and then we can move on to the blue section. All right, so now hopefully you're comfortable enough to actually go onto your template and start creating. So the first part of the blue section says type in your 30-minute time slots onto your template, and if we go to the template, if you just click on that, you see that you've got your 5 different sections: before school, lunchtime, after school, before dinner, and before bed. Just type in the second row here where what time that will be. So look again at my example and then look at yours to see how you should write that out. And of course, as you fill in your time slots, make sure you can actually commit to these times each day, okay? Because there's no point in making a revision timetable that you won't be able to follow. If you like my example, then just simply copy and paste onto your template, onto the first week, change the subjects into the subjects that you actually do study, make sure it looks exactly the same, the spelling is exactly the same as what it is on the right hand side so it can tally up for you. Then copy and paste it onto the next week as well. Then you can just drag it all the way down to the end of the year and check the tally on the right to make sure that you're revising enough for each subject. If you do need to, you can delete some revision during your holiday, but try to add these in your other free time. And as it says at the bottom of the about section, if you need any help, please check out my YouTube and message me there. Some facts about the table. So from September to May, there's roughly 240 days, and if you've got 5 sessions of 30-minute slots, that's 2.5 hours per day revision, which is roughly around 600 hours of revision potential from these 30-minute slots. If you need more time, you can add more, but try and keep it realistic, okay? I appreciate that some of you may find this video well after 2020, so to change the date on the left hand side, this is what you need to do. Delete the dates that are already on the left hand side, type in the 1st or the 9th, which is September, and then the year that you're in. Drag the bottom right hand corner all the way down, and then after you've done that, highlight where it says date or on the formatting tab, which might say general. Click on where it says long date, and there you go. And now for the final tab, which is called the session goals. Now that you've settled on the days that you would be revising, you need to be precise about what goals you want to achieve with each revision session. This is where you use your audit from the previous video. Look at all your sad faces and slot them into your session goals. Notice how the majority of the subjects have 3 slots per day. You will study 1 or 2 concepts. This is when you read your classwork, doing worksheets, past paper questions, etc. Then you use the other slots to create revision notes, mind maps and flashcards. In that order. On the 6th video, I will show you how to create short condensed flashcards from your revision notes. After each session, if you understood the work, write that topic on the learned column. You just then need to revise this using flashcards until probably a few days before your assessment for it. But if you feel like you haven't learned it, it goes into your next study slot. Do not move on until you get it. The great thing about having this master copy on your computer is that you can carry it on everywhere because it's in the cloud. You can access it on your phone, laptop, anywhere without taking too many things with you. The final thing that I'll advise you on doing with your revision timetable is to ask your teacher for your long-term assessment plans. Each school should usually have this, and that's just the days that you will be sitting certain assessments. When you put this into your revision timetable, you'll be able to modify your revision to better prepare for them. But you should always remember that you need to revise everything, not just what's going to come in your school exams, also in what's going to come up in the real GCSEs as well, because something might come up in the school exams and it doesn't come up in the GCSEs and vice versa. So make sure you learn as many different topics as possible. Okay, alright, let's wrap this video up. So make sure you download my template in the description. Go through each of the colored steps on the about page and edit the appropriate tab, triple or combined. If you're stuck with something or have any questions, please leave a comment and I'll reply as soon as I can. The next video in the series will be looking at how to think scientifically, which is probably the biggest gains you can make in your GCSE science. If you missed the previous video on the syllabus, be sure to check that out and download the adapted syllabus. And yeah, like, subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to see more of this in your feed. Peace.